Welcome to the Clean Power Hour Live. I'm Tim Montague, your co-host. And today on the Clean Power Hour, we're going to be talking about a sand battery, new photovoltaic technology, um, a turbine for undersea energy. There's another word for that. I can't remember what that's called. And we
Tidal
have John
power.
Hydro. Yeah. Uh,
It's tidal.
Title. We have Mr. John Weaver joining us, although right now your video is frozen, I think, John, but welcome to the
Oh,
show, John.
sorry about that, Tim. I'm on a site. See, everybody, if you look out my window, we're building some KWs about 226. Got screws going in the ground, and so I'm here hanging out. Thank you, Tim, for letting me show up on your show while I'm. As you can tell, today I haven't done much work because my high vis is perfectly clean. Yesterday I did work, but I don't have any evidence of that. So far I've been the lazy guy on podcasts and phone calls.
There you go. There you
Uh,
go.
yes.
Well, we like to see you with a clean shirt, John, and it's good to see you in the field. It's very fun to be in the field. I love being in the field, and it doesn't happen nearly enough. Um, but so we've been dark for a couple of weeks. And I've largely been ignoring the news because I was on vacation in North Carolina and then the Hudson Valley of New York. It was lovely. And then I came back to the Midwest and we're in the midst of a heat wave. It was 99 degrees when I returned on Tuesday, which was no fun. But today's not so bad. It's in the 80s here now. Um, what has transpired in your life in the last 2 weeks, John?
Sorry about that.
Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you now, Tim. I'm sorry. Right as you said something, it got a little fuzzy. I heard everything you said right up to the heat wave. Then you said, "What?" And then the camera went fuzzy on me.
No worries, no worries. I was just asking if anything interesting had transpired for you. I do want to get into the news here. We're going to get into the news very shortly, but big picture, what's going on in John Weaver's life?
Well, we have a few projects we have signed. We have portfolio that we're working through on where we're learning about designing large tracker systems and realizing how we were wrong with some of our assumptions early on. And one of our assumptions ends up being a positive because our projects are a little larger than we thought they were originally. But it's still a stress that you don't know everything. There's sciences within sciences. So on the project here today, we have a vein of rock that seems to be running right down the middle of it. And so we have about 4 or 5 screws that aren't going in the ground. We got to figure out how we're going to deal with those. Um, yeah, just lots of building of solar, trying to find modules that align with inverters and their voltages, and bifacial is a little challenging with string sizing. So we're just learning things as we get into technology as a company. News wise, Tim, there's always news. I mean, there's constantly news. I, I, I have challenges sometimes finding what I'm going to put on the show document because there's so much that I want to share, and I know we only get through a few of them.
Yeah.
So the world's always moving.
Well, the story that grabbed my attention this week was a sand battery being developed in Finland, and
Hmm.
this is not the Finns are not the only people developing thermal storage technology. Of course, I dropped an episode last week with a company called Hyperlight, which is doing next generation concentrated solar power. So check that out. You can find all of our content at cleanpowerhour.com or cleanpower.group. And give us a rating and a review on Apple and Spotify. That's the best way to help others find the content. And then, of course, subscribe to our YouTube channel. But this, let me see if I can get this on screen. Um, yeah. So this is a story from Clean Technica. A company called Polar Night Energy is putting sand in basically a grain bin and then taking excess heat and pumping that into the sand. And then on demand, you can remove that excess heat and use it for whatever you want. You can use it for heating and cooling, or you can use it to generate electricity. And it's a thing. And it's, you can do this above ground, you can do it below ground. The Hyperlight guys are doing it below ground, and but I just like the look of this silo above ground. So instead of corn and beans, you're going to have hot sand in a barrel.
I like the way you said that. Hot sand in a barrel.
Yeah,
uh, people talk about the molten salt thing constantly, and I wish I saw more of it because it sounds like a cool idea. I do always wonder how far and wide heat storage in physical processes can be used. Like, how big of a market is it? I guess it doesn't have to be, heat and energy, electricity, each of these specialties, how they get served matters. And I like the idea that this is a small unit that can be like deployed all around because so far, most of the hot storage things are associated with large solar concentrated facilities that I know of. And those aren't very distributable. This is almost like distributed heat that you could have, in case of emergency. So if the electricity and gas goes down for some weird reason, you
yeah,
can have hot water, and that's kind of neat, and it's distributed. So there's something kind of cool to it.
yeah. I mean, it's a 100 kW. The photo that was at the top of the story is a 100 kW, 8 MWh capacity device, and primarily in this case, they're going to be using it to augment district heating, and um, but it's a nice, it's a nice, fairly compact. I mean, a 100 kW solar array would be a much bigger footprint. Um, and but anyway, the long and short of this is that we're swimming in solar energy, solar, wind, and wave, and tidal energy, right? And so finding new and better ways to store that energy. This is a 3 month, potentially 3 month storage uh, device, and when you do it underground, it's even longer. I think it's more like 6 months. So it it has tremendous staying power, so to speak, which I think is great for resiliency. And I don't know what the cost per kWh is. That's not mentioned that I could see in the story, but good story. And I think we're just, we're kind of on the cusp of a whole new slate of solar thermal or renewable thermal technologies coming. I'm going to be bringing a company called Phoenix onto the show. Hopefully, I'll get that to be one of our Thursday events, John. They're doing concentrated solar thermal for hot water for industrial applications, and they use a single axis tracker. The
Nice.
technology is from Sweden. Um, so anyway, I think we're going to see trackers coming into the solar thermal, single axis trackers, not dual axis, and that's a big difference. There's been a lot of problems with dual axis trackers, I think, across the board, whether that's for CSP or uh, for PV. But
I think I think the single axis, they already have single axis trackers for a lot of CSP units that have like the oils. So they have the metal trough trackers, and those will track the sun, but they're not PV based. But they do have single axis trackers but they are
Well, if you
complex.
have a trough, you don't need to track per se. If it's like a one single big trough,
It's
but
true.
like Hyperlight is doing a bunch of small, just like 6-inch PVC pipes that are cut in half with mirrors, and then you put out an array of these mirrors, and then they all track as the sun goes over and focus onto a single heating element. Um, but yeah, I'm not familiar with, besides Phoenix and Hyperlight. I'm not familiar with the application of single axis in the CSP world.
Hey, can we talk
Well,
about the Tesla roof?
what about the Tesla roof?
They have it. So we got an article on the document. We have
Yeah.
official volume counts. Nothing magical, no data, just units getting installed. That's all. I just wanted to bring it up so we could tell everybody about the numbers, the counts, and let the people who are in weird states in line and saying, "When the heck?"
I have to say, I think the the yeah, I'm happy to put this story on screen. Tesla, the title of the story, and this is from Electrek, is Tesla achieves best solar deployment in years, but solar roof is still at a crawl,
Yes.
and that is, I think, uh, the sad part is
Yeah.
that it is it
Yeah.
is it is it is going very, very slowly for the Tesla solar roof.
This is without a doubt. This is without a doubt. And but at least we have some numbers now. At least they feel confident putting something out there. This is the first time they've done it in multiple years. And now we see about, I believe it's 35 units per week getting installed, which
Okay.
is great. And that's something. It's better than the pictures we saw once every 3 months, thinking there was one install every 3 months.
Yeah, I mean, it is the by far the best looking solar roof on the market as far as I'm concerned.
Yes.
Um, and it says here Tesla has deployed 2.5 megawatts of solar roofs during the second quarter of 2022.
Hmm.
So, um, you know, it's still probably less than a tenth of a percent, right, or even less than that, right,
Of the
of
quarter.
rooftop residential solar that is going to use this building integrated. Um,
Yeah, I think a gig or more of residential solar was installed in Q1.
okay,
So 1.2, 1.3 gigs. And if Tesla got, 2.5 megs, we're about two hundredths, 2/10 of a percent, something like that.
yeah.
So yes, it's trivial in the volume, but it's whiz bang and it's cool, man. So,
I want to go to a story from the Midwest.
yes.
A well known EPC called GRNE has been acquired by the financial services company Nelnet. Nelnet is a large financial services company in the student loan industry, and GRNE is a homegrown, headquartered in Illinois company, but they're operating in, I think, 5 states across the U.S. Shout out to Eric Peterman, who is one of the co-founders. Let me get this on screen, but it's just cool to see a local EPC getting this kind of traction, so to speak. I still don't understand exactly why Nelnet is getting into the renewable industry or into renewables, other than it's a cash cow, and that's, I guess, my pet theory without inside information. And but I have an active relationship with GRNE. I'm getting quotes from them on commercial projects here in Illinois. And they were a fierce competitor of mine when I was at Continental Energy Solutions. So, congrats to the team at GRNE. They also have a podcast called What It Takes, I believe, and so it's a fun show. Um, This is probably your fate, John. You too will be purchased by a very large financial services company someday.
Well, that's a wonderful fate. Thank you for saying that, Tim. I hope for the best.
Oh,
That's interesting. There's going to be a growing industry, we still believe. Financial groups are trying to get into the industry for a lot of different reasons. Some of them to own projects, some
yeah.
of them to sell projects, some of them to find their capital. Uh, we get phone calls all the time from groups looking to buy projects, and many different groups want to associate themselves with projects and have all kinds of different business plans surrounding that. So, I mean, a straight financial services group, I mean, they probably have good logic, but that's cool to know. Just random, regular people getting invited to the big plate.
Yep. You found a story in PV Magazine.
Hmm.
Energy output is over 100 times the input needed to manufacture solar panels, is the headline. Story by Ryan Kennedy. And I'll just read one of the opening paragraph here. According to a third-party study, the projected output over the 40-year warranty period of Maxeon solar panels exceeds the energy demand of manufacturing them by over 100-fold. So this is a wonderful phenomenon, and it's often something that lay people question. Your video has gone funky there, John. I don't know what's going on, but
Hmm.
I'm going to put the Maxeon story here on screen.
Yep.
What? Yeah, I have an opinion about this, but what do you think is interesting about this story?
Well, the first item is that they're talking about just the solar panel, I think. I don't think they're talking about the
Right.
full system. And that's something important to differentiate. And I think the term that we should bring up is called EROEI, energy return on energy invested. And so you put in X, and how many times do you get X out? And there's lots of neat stories about that and things I've read where if you have a energy returned on your energy investment is too low, you can't have a complex big society. At least that's the pitch. And so it's important that you have an efficient industry, efficient energy industry specifically. I've seen lots of numbers comparing solar and nuclear and coal and oil back in the day versus oil today, especially with all the processing. So it was just neat to see 100-to-1 ratio for the panel. In fact, I think it's a little higher for the panel, but we have to get more firm data from the marketing firm and look it up. But I just thought it was cool.
Yeah, it's actually both. They say in the story here that the panels pay back in 0.13 to 0.45 years for ground mount, and then 0.27 to 0.92 for a residential rooftop system.
Yeah, the
Um,
document, I read the document. It's a little funky. They don't break down module and system really well as they go through like two paragraphs.
yeah, yeah,
So that's why I brought up the module thing because modules historically or the systems are like 10 to 20 years that I've seen for EROI and maybe 25, 30 years now. So to say that they have 100 years in their best case, that's a little aggressive, but maybe it's right for the perfect thing. So I don't know that number. I asked Ryan Kennedy of PV Magazine to reach out to Maxion so we could see the original report and better interpret it,
yeah,
and maybe we'll have it. But but
yeah.
the fact that they have one system that they think can pay off in 47.5 days, that's whiz bang cool. And that's the story of my life with articles. Whiz bang cool.
Yep. Well, it's good for us in the industry to know these numbers. My rule of thumb was a solar system is paying for itself in 2 years energetically, and I'm going to stick to that statistic. the panels clearly are paying back in less than a year, and that's great. And then the rest is gravy. Um, Honestly, because we're in overshoot, right? Because human society has been riding this rocket ship called fossil fuels for the last 100 years. We've now greatly exceeded the carrying capacity of the Earth, and the role of renewables is to be a fundamental part of softening the landing. We are going to have a landing. We are not going to continue to just grow, grow, grow. That is not possible on a finite planet. It defies the laws of physics. And so the question is, can we come down and have the good life that we have today and not completely shatter into a billion pieces and go back to the Stone Age? And I believe that we can, but I think that we have to be very intentional about that, creating a glide path, so to speak, and wheels down. And it's not easy because we're like we're so focused on growth, right? That's the whole mantra of modern society is expand, expand, expand. And you and I are part of that, and we do want to expand the solar energy industry and the renewables industries because that is going to, help stop us from driving off the cliff of climate change. But there's other cliffs, so we just all have to be aware of this and focus as a collective group on creating a soft landing. Let's go to your tweet about the project I think that you're on right now.
Yes.
You got
Sweet.
some nice photos here of
Hold down the window so everybody can see what's going on outside. We're drilling some
nice.
screws over there in the corner. We're still doing a little bit of land clearing over here on this half of the processing. Got a big pile of trees over there. Got some metal racking over here. Yeah, so it's just on um, of the labor that's all I'm useful for. Um, and I'm really doing it so I can price projects better. I don't know ground mounts very well. I've been on the roof. I haven't been on the roof for years anyway, like a decade plus. But I figure this is a close project. It's nearby. It's small, and the electrician and I are very friendly. So I'm on his payroll. I'm getting a paycheck, which is great. I'm getting minimum wage, but I'm okay with that because I'm not right now. I'm getting paid. Uh, so sorry, Edwards Electric. I'm podcasting on the clock. But so yeah, geez. But this is our project.
I'm gonna put your tweet on the screen. Do you see that now?
Is it up yet? I don't see it. Can't see it. That's okay. What are we going
There
through? Tell me what.
there might be a delay for you, but you've got so you're using ground screws. Is that the racking?
Yeah. We had to use ground screws. There's lots of rocks. We're gonna have to deal with something in a certain chunk. There's we think some clay or gravel layer that we're gonna have to work with in a chunk of the area. But we are using ground screws from AP Solar of Ohio or APA Solar.
Yeah, gotcha. Um, Sorry, I gotta cancel that. Um, don't know how to do that.
My favorite way of canceling things is hitting the escape button.
That worked. All right. So that project is in Massachusetts that you're working on?
Yes, sir. Dartmouth, Massachusetts.
Nice.
Yeah. It's nice, nice install. Edwards Electric is the contractor. I've known him for 7, 8, 9 years. He is a master electrician. Benji Bora of Commercial Solar Guy. That's us. He is the general contractor, and he's around the site because he has supervisory support duties. Um, I work for the electrician this week, and I carry stuff. I'm an expert carrier of things.
Yeah.
Lay out the pipes, pull the strings, run to the other end when they want somebody to run, and or jog hop in the big steel-toed boots. But we're doing we're actually connecting 150 kW AC to the single phase distribution network. So that's the maximum size you can connect to the EverSource power grid on the AC side. And this is a little niche that a guy chased, is just 226 kW DC systems that are single phase. So it's weird install, a lot of small inverters.
And who is the off-taker?
Technically, it's the utility. Utility is signing a 20-year PPA via the SMART program to buy all the electricity.
I see. Interesting. Yep. So it's front of the meter.
Front of the meter, yes, sir. Yeah, exactly. Single phase, 226, front of the meter. So SMA inverters, APA solar racking, VSUN solar panels, ground screw machine by Word rock drills. Oh, I can see your screen now, sir.
Do you see the story about Turkey?
Yeah, how neat is that?
Okay.
So rare earths. So the significance of this number is not a number that I know. It was one that somebody told me. And it was actually some smart person who tweeted it. And we may all have to give this story a tiny bit of skepticism, because someone elbowed me that they hadn't yet found it on the Turkish mineral resources related website. So no official announcement. But the volume of material discovered here, per the same party who said to give it a slight bit of skepticism, he said this is 10 to 15 times more than China has. And it's 1,000 years of needed capacity at current rates. He said if we grow the way we might grow, it's only 200 years worth.
Yeah.
So it's repeating the anti-trope that rare earths aren't actually rare. They're just named that way because they were hard to find back in the day when they were named 100 years ago. And they're a little bit annoying to grab. It's not like oil where you just find a big giant volume of them. You have to like refine them out of ores.
Yeah, interesting. It is interesting to think that, you know, we may have much more abundance of some of these elements that are so important for renewables and battery storage. And this is from a website called SMM News, the leading metals information provider in China. Turkey discovers 694 million megatons of rare earth element reserves with infrastructure construction starting this year. So I also think about Antarctica. Like, there's a huge continent there of mountains and earth that we have very little idea of what's underneath the half a mile of ice or whatever it is that's covering that continent right now. But so good story.
Just so you know, there's not much rare earth in batteries, to the best of my knowledge. Maybe vanadium is considered rare earth, but most batteries are okay. It's the magnets of EVs and wind turbines that I believe are rare earth. The only rare earth type materials that are in solar are in thin film for solar, which is only a couple of % of capacity. So for solar panels, they're not really important. For batteries, I'm not certain. I don't think they're rare earths in like the standard lithium ion type product. So it's, it's just this thing that people say. They're like, oh, rare earths, China, rah. Well, everything's a little more fuzzy, and I just thought this was a cool headline to share.
Yeah.
Whiz bang.
I'm with you. Well, let's talk about the story on floating solar in
Mm.
Norway. This is from PV Magazine, and you and I are both fans of FPV. Uh, I recently kicked the tires. I have the distinction of being the first applicant with the DNR in Illinois for a floating solar array on Lake Michigan. Unfortunately, the feedback from the DNR was they were not very enthusiastic about the idea. Technically, it was feasible. And so I'm going to keep plugging away. I'm not giving up. But most FPV we see is on inland waters, you know, freshwater, um, basically man made lakes, right? That we're creating to have freshwater drinking reserves. Um, but but the Norwegian startup Sunlit Sea has designed a floating array consisting of a single unit float built in cold pressed aluminum with a close to standard solar panel bonded to the top surface. So they're taking a PERC photovoltaic module and bonding it to a float. And so you're just creating a flat floating solar panel that you're then connecting in a series. You can see that in this photo, I think.
Mhm.
And there's hinges that move so that, they can accommodate waves and ripples in the water. And I think this is probably designed for, smaller applications, not competing directly with like sealant tears, which is more of a 5 degree tilt solution. But it just grabbed my eye. I think it's a beautiful concept, very low profile, obviously, and the question is how will it hold up in seawater? Because that is, yeah, that's a question.
Yeah, it's neat, neat cost and a neat form factor. I could see somebody building a small cabin next to a pond in the woods and sliding that thing out there right on top of it. If you don't put a back sheet on the mono perk, you have a nice clear product there that's not taking too much sunlight from the water surface. And being in fresh water is probably better than being in salt water from the corrosive standpoint. But I like that format. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, I guess I'm making an assumption there. Norway is, of course, does have lakes, but ginormous coast, and Norway's like Alaska,
Hmm.
and lots of fjords. So they're relatively calm waters, but they're seawater, and but you can see the scale of these panels. They're not small. They're big, um, full size solar panels. They're just square, as opposed to rectangular. But
I like floating. I like the fact that we are now pushing into floating ocean, not just floating man-made flat lakes. I believe there was a multi-gigawatt RFP in Southeast China for ocean solar. So I'm, it's always interesting to watch the experiments.
yep,
And I
yeah, they
bet
have a
that
nice
system is
nice
cheap too.
diagram showing the layered structure of this, and I hate to know what it costs, but I love the concept.
Well, it's probably not terrible. Cost-wise, I was thinking it might be decently priced.
It just looks expensive to me when I look at that. Um, so yeah, we'll see. I have there was no I don't think there was any mention in the article of price, but And then another story from Europe I found this morning. Orbital Marine Power awarded 2 CFDs as part of UK government renewable energy auction.
Yeah.
CFDs are contracts for differences, which I can't claim to really understand. I saw someone comment that they're long-term contracts, so it's a form of a power purchase agreement.
Yeah, I think they're guaranteed a certain revenue amount, and it'll be the difference, and they're also guaranteed a maximum revenue. So if they gain a significant amount of extra money, some of it might go to the government. If they don't get paid enough from the wholesale market, then the government will step in. So I think it's based on roughly the wholesale market equivalent and the difference. So they're guaranteed, say, 10 cents per kilowatt hour. And if they don't make it, the government steps in. If they make more, they pay the government. So they're just guaranteed, like, 10, X to Y within that range. But
Yeah.
the fact that they have two tidal power units, which I think are 3.6 megawatts each, that both want a unique contract means we have two tidal power units connected to the grid soon. And that's pretty sweet. And I think this is the company that had the headlines with having the largest individual tidal power units.
Yeah, when you look at Orbital Marine's technology, it's very analogous to a submarine, uh, except it floats on the surface, right? So you've got this tubular craft, and then it's got these huge wings that go up and down. The wings, come to the surface for O&M, and then they push down under the surface of the ocean, and then you see those huge blades on there, and the nacelle. So the nacelle is just like a wind turbine nacelle, except it's underwater, and it houses the generator, and then you've got these turbine blades, and this is in Scotland, and there's something called the uh, Marine Energy Center, or the European Marine Energy Center, where they're doing a combination of wind, solar, battery, and green hydrogen research. But you know, coming coming to fruition, which is really cool. It's actually getting built. There's a nice view of the machine.
They,
Uh,
you said it looked like a submarine, and it does, of course. When the wings up, it looks like a TIE fighter because I remember pictures of it prior when it was announced being the large units, and they showed it when it was in dry dock. And so the wings were the extended versus the dropped view, which isn't the
yeah.
standard view. But still, when the wings were out, it looked like a TIE fighter from Star Wars. And so, I think they should rename their company TIE Fighter Power or something.
How do you spell tie?
I think, well, it's from Star Wars, so I think it could be TAI. But if just type in TAI Fighter,
It
Google
wasn't
will fix it.
the screen wasn't sharing before, so um, here's that view now.
That also looks like the Romulus fighting ship from Star Trek. As you can see, I have a little bit of sci-fi in me. Sorry about that.
No, it's all good, then. It's all good. I could watch this video all day long. I love the look of this machine, and they should coat the surface of the fuselage with solar PV. Um, and of course the only unknown is how well will the machine hold up. Obviously, you've got
Yeah.
these moving parts underwater collecting barnacles and seaweed and other organisms that tend to want to grow on surfaces in the ocean. And how big a problem is that going to be, right?
Mhm.
How often will you have to put divers in the water to scrub all that stuff off the machine. That's the question. But in concept, good stuff.
Maybe we could like train seals to constantly, play around them when they're off and, pull off things.
I think we didn't we train dolphins to put like mines on ships in World War II?
This is the exact opposite of blowing things up, but yes, yeah.
Yeah, I like the idea. Sea mammals cleaning renewable energy facilities.
We get those sea mammals some good paying jobs.
Oh my goodness. Well, let's do one or two more stories. You got
All right.
a story from Bloomberg: pro-China agents posed as activists to protest U.S. Canadian mines.
Well, I wanted to post this after the rare earth story earlier, but it was just me talking about the political realities surrounding what we do, the energy that we are part of. I mean, we know that one of the leverage of pieces in the Ukrainian war is energy. It's literally leveraging natural gas and oil against Europe to keep them out of this war. And here we have evidence of the Chinese doing online uh, national security actions to mess up other nation states' ability to compete with them in the energy industry. So here is national security for what we're doing. I was going to post a different article where what did the administration? The administration said that there was one of the things in our industry were national security importance. They did that with solar and batteries a month or two ago. They did it with another item more recently. Battery minerals were seen as national security. Now we see part of the logic why. Other nation states are attempting to corner the industry aggressively, not just via having minerals there, but now stopping other nations from developing their stock. And I don't know, it's just a big thing. We're still in the energy industry. And the energy industry is fundamentally that and food are the two things we actually need as a species, and we're fighting over energy and rare earth elements. It's cool.
So the long and short of this is that China is being accused of trying to basically scare people away from the energy transition. I'm not quite following, I guess.
They're trying to push people against hosting local mines, suggesting that local mines are environmentally unsound,
Okay.
saying, "Oh, this is a terrible thing to build nearby. Your kids will have three legs," or whatever things they say in Facebook groups. And so that's what they're doing. They're literally going in the Facebook groups and talking smack about mines, trying
Yeah.
to ferment unpopular unrise.
Yeah.
And they're them doing that by stopping other groups from developing their resources. It of course keeps China's hand stronger.
Yeah. Makes
So
sense.
geopolitical.
Yeah. The war is as much being fought on social media as much as anywhere else, and it's real. I think I heard that Elon Musk is trying to buy Twitter supposedly. I don't know how serious he is or not, but one of his concerns, quote unquote, is that what is the number of fake Twitter accounts that are actually just bots? And I've seen estimates that is, upwards of 10 to 20% of accounts might be just fake accounts. And I don't know what the answer to that is. Some kind of a verified web, of course, and there are verified, quote unquote, verified accounts on Twitter now. Do you have a verified account on Twitter, John?
I'm not popular enough.
Oh, you have to have some massive number of followers.
No, you just got to be significant or popular, one or the other. And I'm neither significant nor popular yet. I'm working on it though.
Oh,
But even having a verified account isn't necessarily something when you have governments that employ people to troll. So it becomes a little more complex. It's, you have bots, which are just like straight up fake automated accounts.
yeah,
But then the next degree of fake accounts are actually real human beings. And how do you manage that? I mean, we have professional pot stirrers that
right,
exist, and you can't really block a fake account for a real human. It's a little different. I don't
right,
know. It confuses me how to deal with it sometimes.
yeah. Yeah, I
So,
guess you could see instead of having a factory with, you know, hundreds or thousands of workers building things, you could have a factory with hundreds or thousands of people just on cell phones
mhm.
doing nefarious things on social media.
Yep.
And yeah, it's a problem. Well, let's talk about the Netherlands. The
All
Netherlands
right.
is launching a 10 gigawatt national network for green hydrogen. Story from PV Magazine by Emiliano Bellini, our favorite author besides John Weaver on PV Magazine.
I don't know. Emilio's my favorite, so I don't know. He's pretty great. I met Emiliano for the first time recently when I went to Europe.
Oh, cool.
I've chatted with him online. We've had video talks, 1,000 emails, but it's like, good to see you. Shake a hand. It was cool.
Yeah, right
This is
on.
neat because they're building huge amounts of offshore wind to surround this little peninsula of sorts. And if they're surrounded by wind that's feeding into the pipeline network in the north and slowly pushing southward, uh, that's going to keep liquid fuel in the system. And if they can use the existing system, slowly upgrading it, and they reference upgrades. But if they can use the existing gas system, they can also use the existing gas storage system with infrastructure upgrades. They are going to have a lot of excess hydrogen at minimum for industry and maybe for other high cost places where hydrogen can compete. And if they're going to have it and they have this infrastructure to move it, maybe we just keep building offshore wind. There is more wind than we need energy.
Yeah.
So I'm hopeful on the spectacular opportunity of offshore wind to hydrogen, which they call power to hydrogen. And because wind could power the world on its own.
So I'm I'm curious. Do you know how they're going to be making the hydrogen?
Well, I
Are
don't
they
remember from
making
the
it from
story, but
fossil fuels or are they making it from H2O?
I think they're going to be making it from wind power and
Well,
water.
the electricity, the power to make the stuff is one thing, right? But the
Yeah,
source material is another thing.
true.
Because one of our concerns in the energy transition is that the fossil fuel industry is very interested in hydrogen as well. Like methane is carbon with four hydrogen atoms attached to it. So there's a lot of hydrogen in methane, and you can get hydrogen from methane. We call that gray hydrogen, right? What it does though is it gives a lifeline to the fossil fuel industry to make claims that hey, they're going green too and we're the good guys. And some of them are, but for the most part, we need to keep fossil fuels in the ground because otherwise we're going to end up with carbon pollution in the air, and that's going to uh, probably crush us in some way economically. But yeah, so that's why I asked that question.
Short term, I have no idea. Long term, we know what their aspirations are.
Yeah, I'm with
So,
you on the wind power thing, right? Like
yeah.
that's definitely a good. And um, you know, there's I mean, offshore wind has been a latecomer just because of the cost of energy has been higher. Uh, but I saw that you had posted a story about, you know, the wave of offshore that hit in 2021. It was very significant.
Hmm.
I will note that China dominated that by
Yes.
far.
Yep.
And America needs to wake up. Like, renewable energy is a national security thing, because if if you can make your energy from a fuel that's free, meaning wind and solar, that frees up resources to do other things with your dollars and cents. And things like build an AI or an AGI,
Or
or
invading other countries.
bolster your military, or create, you know, an army of human robot tweeters. So, uh, yeah, it is a national, renewables are a national security
Yeah.
thing, and America needs to take it seriously. I mean, of course, the wind developers are taking this seriously and working hard at it, and it's coming to the U.S. now. Um, Up and down the Atlantic coast, there's offshore wind happening, and even now whisperings in on the West Coast too.
Yep.
So
Yep.
we have huge resources, and we will eventually take advantage of them. Well, I think we should wrap it up, John. I want you to get back in the field and get some dirt on that damn shirt, will you?
Clean. I'm clean. This is terrible. I haven't really worked at all today. I've just talked. I'll work after lunch. Everybody just went to lunch a few minutes ago, so I'll eat my nuts, drink my water. There we go.
So we'll be back next week, coming to you every Thursday, and then dropping a pre-recorded interview every Tuesday. Check out all of our content at cleanpower.group/podcast. Give us a rating and a review on Apple and Spotify. That helps others find this content. And how can our listeners find you, John Weaver?
Well, they can visit Lucy Little Lane in Dartmouth, Massachusetts. There's a dirt field, and I'll be walking around in it carrying things. Uh, or they can go to our website, commercialsolarguy.com. Twitter, I'm Solar in Mass. And LinkedIn, you can just type in my name or commercial solar guy. So all over the world.
Excellent. All right. Well, let's grow solar and storage. I'm Tim Montague. Have a great day, John.